Hello, YouTube, and anyways, today we're going to be going over the Somniel trailer and the DLC trailer. Sorry that this video is late. I actually recorded it when I first saw the Somniel trailer, but I forgot to hide my webcam, so the video wasn't actually visible. So yeah, let's get right in. I've seen it in English. I just want to go over. I'm not actually going to watch it on here. I just want to go over various elements of it, because I think that'll be more helpful. Yeah. So anyways, I'm glad that stuff like, just in general, with Somniel, it doesn't seem, it seems more like the My Castle from Fates than it does the monastery from Three Houses. This is because Three Houses, the monastery was required for a lot of things, just because of how the game's systems worked. Like with the calendar, like how the class system worked with like needing weapon levels, how like to get the weapon levels up, you really had to keep your units' morales high by doing stuff like, by having to do stuff like cooking, the singing, the actual teaching itself was all part of the monastery, as well as like the recruiting. You either had to like get really high supports with people by giving them a crap ton of stuff, or getting your own levels up through all the various stuff of the monastery. Like to do all that, all the monastery stuff was essentially required to get a lot of the gameplay elements of Three Houses. Where here in Somniel, like all this stuff are stat boost stuff. They're not required. In fact, I imagine on lower difficulties, they're just going to make the game pathetically easy, and on the highest difficulty, hopefully they'll be more so required. But on the middle difficulties, you shouldn't have to do any of this to play optimally. Anyways, just looking at the armory, love the icons, and the Rider's Bane really sticks out to me because Sigurd had one of those in the reveal trailer, which means stuff like the Rider's Bane, the Lance Reaver, all that, they're probably here. You can probably just get them in armory. And if you look, let's get to where he goes above the Armor Slayer. Look at how the stats go down. So this is even more like Fate. So obviously we don't know item durability. We knew that already, but we didn't know like what they were going to do to make up for that. It looks like stats are going to be lowered for some weapons as well, much like Fates. Hopefully not to like the extreme like extent, because Fates had like a bunch of really just ones I didn't really enjoy, like lowering stats that like enough that like they had to slowly recover per round, like with the silver weapons. I hope they don't do that, because I never liked using silver weapons in Fates because of it. I'm interested to see how they do it, though. And I'm just looking at, like, what's available and all that. Still no ranged sword, unfortunately. No blade equivalent for lances either. We can't really see much else beyond that, though. In the store, look at those. You got status stabs. You got silence. And they have 5 uses. We're actually able to see uses of these items. So vulneries are 3. Antitoxins, which seem a lot more useful, are also 3. Look at that spear icon. Wow. We're not seeing the stat decreases for silver lances either, unfortunately. Tonics are all back. They seem pretty cheap. Torches. And freeze and silence coming back are great. And obstruct, probably is like the runes, shine runes in Tellius. Anyways, the quote unquote gotcha system, like SP, that seems fine, but the gotcha system itself, I know when this was first revealed in the Japanese trailer, and people were going like, "Oh, this is bad." It really, it's so minor. It's not like Fire Emblem Heroes, like that's debating you into like spending real money to get things, because like there's only 10 per game, it looks like. And even then, you're able to combine the lower ones, and they're just different stat boosts. So, if you do enough of the side things and get enough bond fragments, this doesn't seem like that much of an issue. And again, it's fully optional. And again, it's not like Xenoblade 2's gotcha system, where the rarest blades are extremely hard to get. This is a lot more minor than that. And people have also theorized that a lot of these stat boosting stuff really isn't going to matter much in the late game for actual characters, because most likely you'll probably won't have much more than 12 people in the end game, which means you can just have them equipped with real emblems, which makes all this not very needed for the late game, making it more of an early game theme. And yeah, it's RNG based, but all a Fire Emblem is. Yeah, not a fan of like the ring petting type thing. I think that's weird. I do think it is really weird. But I still think it's better than face petting. And then the arena, it doesn't really mention like the whole that you can do it with emblems as well. That costs bond fragments, as Twitter revealed, which is why the bond fragments is actually shown at the bottom right. Look at that, almost 5,000, which means they're probably not going to be that rare, which makes the previous gacha not that bad. Doesn't seem anything too crazy there. This is the cool part. So we got the fabrications here in the Tower of Trials, and we've seen the fabrication enemies before in past trailers on the past maps. So that may mean that like all the old maps are part of this trial thing, and they probably just give a lot of bond fragments. And the whole map building thing, again, really cool. And all this just seems optional. Because all of like the cooking, the workout, all the minigames seem to just be temporary stat boosts. Which I think is a very good way of doing it compared to Three Houses, where like you had to do it to raise the morale and to tutor your students more. This seems a lot better. Just in general. Lost items are back. That shouldn't really be a shock. Like, that's what that is. Workout, like, dexterity, cool. The tarot cards. Don't really know the full extent of that personally. I don't know if that's because I'm bad at paying attention, but I don't think it was fully said. What's that? I'm just trying to see what that is. Okay. That's just a fish. Able to, like, use amiibos to get music. For the most part, I really like the music choice. I wish we got Sacrifice and Insane, Mill's Divine Depiction. That's okay. I hate the localization of the Final Holy War, so I'm going to continue to call it the Final Holy War, because that is what the track is to me. Let's Go Leaf. It's not Leaf in Search of Victory Leaf, but it's very, very similar. Beneath a New Light, hell yeah. Wind Across the Plains, I've never really loved FE7's map theme, so don't mind there. Hopefully, that's the final. I believe. I saw online that people were saying that the final battle from Sacred Stones was the Sacred Stones like amiibo ticket thing, and if that is true, that makes me ecstatic, because that's one of my favorite map themes in that. It's my favorite map theme in that game. The Devoted's not a map theme. Interesting pick. That's not Eternal Bond. Not going to complain too much. Echoes of Daybreak. It's the first Radiant Dawn map theme. That's a good pick. Destiny Ablaze. It's not Id Purpose or Don't Speak Her Name, but that is definitely the next best in my opinion. End of All and Photo Window are extremely disappointing, as both of those games have some incredible map themes, and those are two of my least favorites from each of those games. So that's a little sad. I'm assuming you get a ticket per amiibo. I think there's 12 Smash amiibos, right? You got the 2 Robins. Do you have 2 Corns? I don't know. Chrom, Marth, Lucina, Ike, Roy, no, I'm counting more than 12 either way, because the 2 SOV ones bring it to 9, the Tiki one, the Byleth one, that brings it up to 11. Oh, so yeah, 1 Corn, I guess. Yeah. Because that's 12. Okay, so you get a ticket per, so you actually get to choose what music you get, I guess. That's a fair way of doing it, since, like, Sigurd, Leaf don't have amiibos, neither does Lyn. So that seems like a fair way of doing it. The whole sleeping thing seems kind of creepy as well, honestly, being woken up in your room by them, but Somniel, just in general, just seems like the evolution of the My Castle and not as much of the Garruk Monastery, which I think is a good idea. I hope that there's just a menu version of it where like you get like the base prep screen from Tellius where like all the talk stuff you could do there, all the shops, all the mini games. I hope they have just a consolidated menu version of that. They're probably not, but if they have a menu version of it, that immediately will make Engage like, woo, that's great. Anyways, not too much in the beginning of the trailer besides a lot. I'm trying to find a good. Oh man, it's freezing up on me. That is not Erica. That is definitely Ephraim. And Tomahawk, nice. Anyways, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about the DLC. Day one, let's not pretend like Day One DLC is a sign of the devil. Let's not pretend like it's a new thing. Fire Emblem's done it since Awakening, and just in general, it is something that's everywhere. It's huge. So let's not pretend that Engage having it is that surprising. Yes, Day One DLC is a scummy practice, and yes, I think this DLC would be way better received if it released in February, a month after the game launch. I think people would feel a lot better, but let's not pretend like just because the game has DLC, the game is incomplete. Look at the Xenoblade games. They're not incomplete without DLC. Past Fire Emblem games, like Awakening, you don't need a DLC for it to be complete. Three Houses, you don't need a DLC for the game to be complete. Just because the game has DLC doesn't mean it's not incomplete. So stop being like, this means that Engage is incomplete. No, it really doesn't. Sure, like, I'd rather not have Day One DLC. But it's not like the worst. As long as the game's still playable without the DLC, then there's nothing wrong with it. Really, there's nothing wrong with it as long as the game's still playable. I know I'm going to get the DLC no matter what, but I'm going to hold off on buying it until I beat the game. That's what I did with Xenoblade 3, and I think that's a smart choice, even though if Xenoblade 2 shows anything, the DLC is well worth the price. Because if this DLC is anything like Xenoblade 2, the expanded upon story in Wave 4 is going to be fantastic. Because that's what it was with Xenoblade 2. The first three waves are the first waves in Xenoblade 2 were very inconsequential, but it could be very helpful to make the gameplay experience easier, which this seems like. Then the final wave is great with a whole new story that got its own physical release. So I don't think that's too much to worry about. Yeah, the silver card being included is a little scummy as well. But first of all, they nerfed it, and this is a modern Fire Emblem game. They're going to throw money at us no matter what, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. You're not going to need the silver card. You really aren't. As for like how the characters look, I think Claude actually came over quite well, and it's important to note that the Three Houses characters, you're very familiar with the 3D models from Three Houses. With the Tellius ones, you're probably not as familiar with them. Even if you played them, you most likely had combat animations off, and you see them less because you also have a lot more use of the portraits. You don't have like the monastery, the free roam, and see their models and talk to. You just in general saw the 3D models in Tellius way less than Three Houses, so that's why these probably stick out and not looking as good. Because if you just think about it, the best looking Engage emblem designs are the ones you never have seen in 3D. Leaf, Sigurd, they look fantastic. You've never seen them in 3D before. Corrin, I think, even looks really good despite being in 3D in Smash. Same with Roy. Ike, I think, is on the weaker end personally, but I still think he looks good. Mikhail, I think, looks really good. I'd say Edelgard and Dimitri are the weakest too. But that's also probably just because they're the ones I'm most familiar with from Three Houses. Dimitri's face to me looks a little off, but again, I'm so used to how it looks in Three Houses. I'm also used to seeing his portrait in Three Houses. And not all the designs for this game come across as well in 3D. Like, if you hate how the characters look in this game, I urge you to, as much as possible, look at some of the 2D art that was drawn, as it looks much better. Some of these designs just don't look as good on the style of models they're using, and I think Dimitri's an example. Edelgard, I also think, has some issues, especially with her forehead. But that's not because it's, like, bad. It just It's not what we're used to. We're so used to the portrait in Three Houses. We're so used to the Three Houses model that this art style just looks off initially. I think Tiki looks pretty good. Not my favorite pick, but definitely one that makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just really I think they're using this as an excuse to get all the lords in. Um, so hopefully like Selith, we'll probably get like a combined bracelet emblem of like Emblem of Friendship with Hellowood Hector. Did I say Hellowood Hector? Ellowood Hector. We'll probably get like Emblem of Bonds with Crom Robin. Azura seems likely from Fates. Lelina. I really do not know from Sacred Stones. Either Sorn or Alencia from Path of Radiance, Self from Radiant Dawn. Hopefully, we'll get a total of 24 main emblems with the bracelets. That being 4 Wave 2, 6 in Wave 3. But if they don't give us all that, I imagine they'll skip out on the Tellius Duology and Sacred Stones for giving us more emblems. Just because there's no more lords from those games that need representation. Anyways, that's really all I have to say. Originally I said more, but I actually watched the videos originally as well on my original recording. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.